Welcome everybody, my name is Josh Rivers, and today I'll be recapping Dragula Season 2, Episode 9, The Last Supper. So before I even get into the episode, I just want to say how low-key genius / psychic I am, because I actively didn't really talk about the boudoir stuff during the season, and that's basically what this entire episode was, and if I had already talked about it, I would already give my opinion on it, thus meaning I would not have much to talk about, so I am psychic, is basically what I'm trying to say, because I knew what I was doing. I wasn't just lazy and now I'm covering my ass. So we start out the episode with an amazing scene with Meatball, which I loved every moment of. I found everything that happened hilarious. Just Meatball's scream of horror, and it was so maniacal, was hilarious to me. I just couldn't stop laughing. It's just because that scream is like, there's so many emotions in it. Depending on the context, it could be of horror or sadness or crying or an evil laugh. It could be so many things. It's a very adaptable laugh, and I live for it. And the Scooby-Doo door moment, even with just 2 doors, was perfect. And then we got the scene of them in, I think it's an attic, with all the bodies of the exterminated queens. And they had some funny scenes with Monique, where they take off her mask and are horrified with what's underneath, which was pretty funny. But my favorite part was they had this very long-winded thing about Disasterina, and then immediately go to Felony Dodger and go, who the fuck is this? Which, I found super funny, but it did hurt because I was like, oh, I wish he had stayed longer, because I love Felony so much. And then, of course, Abora was still a puddle with her clothes on top, so that was pretty good. And then they had this resurrection scene, which was beautiful and gorgeous and pretty iconic. And I was really impressed and amazed by all the things going on. Like, that was an amazing scene. That was gorgeous. I loved everything about it. Like, that is perfect. That is true. That is, like, amazing. So they bring all the queens back, and we are going to have a last supper with them, and they get to showcase final outfits. I don't think there was a theme for it, but if there was, it was leather jackets and titties, because there was a lot of leather jackets and a lot of titties. That's what I noticed. So first up was Felony Dodger, and she has this punk rock anarchist look, like protesting, rebellious, and she throws a Molotov, and I'm like, do you think the behind the scenes people are like, oh, we have to deal with another fucking fire? God, every week with these queens with almost burning down this building. I always like to think about that. But I think Felony looked pretty amazing, and I thought it was a great look. It's probably one of my favorites of the night. And then next we have Monique, and Monique's hair is laid. I love that hair, especially with contrast to her mask. I think that looks amazing. The entire outfit I wasn't a big fan of, but she just started peeling it off basically immediately when she was sitting down at the dinner, so it's not like that was that big of a deal, because she just didn't have the jacket, didn't have the titties, I don't think she had the corset, like she was just gone. And I was like, you know what, you do you, I'm fine with it. And then we have Kendra Onyx, who I think looks gorgeous tonight. I'm not a big fan of the bottom half of the skirt. It's not my favorite, just that tiered look. It's with different material. That's not my favorite look, but overall I think she looks gorgeous. Her breastplate's a little bit better than Monique's, because they're actually trying to hide the fact that it's a breastplate slightly. I said this a lot during the competition, that she kind of looks very goddess, very ethereal, very regal, like she is that bad bitch, because she is a bad bitch. That's a truthful and honest thing. She is that, and she plays it well, and she does it well, and she wears it well. Next we have Dolly, and half of her face is burned. I think that's just a continuation from her extermination, but I just don't really have much to say about it. It's not that memorable in my opinion. It's not bad, it's just I just don't feel like there's a lot to remember to this look. It's a decent outfit, but it's just not something that I can pin down and say, I like this element, I dislike this element. There's really nothing about it where I can say anything like that. And next we have Erica Clash, who is the cross between S&M and Baby Doll. Okay, it's gonna be honest. It's hard to talk about these looks because they go by like 3 seconds each. Like, they don't have any time. But I do like this look. It's just kind of confusing, the two elements together. Like, I understand the contrast. I understand why they work together, but I just don't think she chose the right elements of either to put together. But I do like it. You see why it's confusing? Next we have Disasterina, and I've come to appreciate Disasterina's style, even if it's not to my taste. because it's who Disasterina is. I'm kind of living for that jacket, though. The jacket with the zebra stripes and the chains and the studs everywhere. I love it. I actually really dig that jacket. I think she has the sock tied to her cock. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I think there's a rubber band on it. I didn't look too much because it went by really quickly. And then she started spraying silly string on her, which I think really works. It really represents Disasterina. And then we have Abora, who, another leather jacket. In that preview, didn't even showcase the bottom half. You didn't get to see it. You just got to see the jacket and the bra and then her spit up, which I love, but we didn't get to see the full outfit, which I find to be a problem because I want to see it all. We did not get to see it all, and I'm a little upset about that. But I think she looks great. She looks like Abora, and I think that was perfect. And then we have the top 3, and I was a little disappointed. Because I was like, okay, this is the top 3. They're going to show it off. And they didn't look as good as the other contenders. I was like, wait a minute. This is not right. What? How are they not? You 3 don't look like the top 3. That was just truthful and honest. They didn't look like the top 3. Like, I don't think any of them look bad. I just feel like if I had taken bits and pieces from each of them, I could have made at least one good outfit. Bitch's nails were amazing, though. Those were really nice nails. Yeah, so that's all I have to say about the top 3. So the supper begins, and this all leads into a conversation about James and how James started out as a bitch. The queens perceived that, told her that, and she changed her ways. I really don't see a difference. At least personally, I don't really see a difference from the first episode to now. I just think the atmosphere is different of a competition when you're first joining than you are at the top 4 or 3. It's just a different atmosphere. I don't really see much of a difference or a humbling or any sort of thing like that. That's just not something I've noticed. But, she says that's what it is. I didn't really have that much problem with her in the first place. So, it is what it is. And now we get the main course, which turns into a conversation to Felony Dodger, which I was happy for because I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if they just don't mention Felony at all. I mean, Pinche wasn't even here last season, so who could ever be sure? But they did ask her, and she did say something that I think really resonated with me, which is that she feels a lot of rejection from losing, because that makes first, someone has to go home first, but that still doesn't mean it doesn't hurt to be the first one to go home, because no one wants to be the first one home, and you kind of feel like you weren't good enough. And then she goes on to say how she feels a lot of resentment towards Monique, because, Monique kind of beat her out, and she didn't feel like Monique had a good attitude about it at all. And Monique kind of interrupted her in a way that if she had just waited and let Felony finish, she wouldn't have to have interrupted her at all. Really, it was Monique getting defensive about really nothing that Monique should have got defensive about. These attitudes and what she was feeling was very valid, made a lot of sense, and was not something to fight over, in my opinion. But of course, Monique is hearing negative things said about her. She wants to defend herself, but she could have waited, listened, and understood what Felony was trying to say without interrupting her, and then realized that there was not much of an argument going on there. And then they ask Erica about the incest question on the polygraph test, which I avoided that one on purpose. I avoided talking about that specific one on purpose because I was like, I'm not getting into that set. But my thought was at the time, it's probably a distant cousin that she doesn't really know that well. I was going to say that because I was like, it's definitely not like a brother or, uncle or someone. And that was the case. So, that's how it is. And of course, this conversation led into the next conversation with James, because James, throughout the entirety of the season, was known as the Incest Queen, because a lot of rumors online about her and her brother. And she set the record straight that they are actually not related, that she calls him his brother, but there's actually no blood relation, and it's actually just a friendship. So, I'm glad that's cleared up. But one thing that they didn't get into is there is definitely a truth that they fed into it. They fed into it a lot. Because this was not something that was not known prior to Dragula. This was very well much known. This was not a new topic, and it took until the Dragula reunion. Granted, I'm kind of a recluse when it comes to everything, so I don't really see a lot of information or a lot what other people talk about when it comes to the show, so maybe this was said outside the show, I don't remember. But it took until the reunion for it to get to me that they were not related, and I've heard a lot of different things like stepbrothers or not related or adopted adopted brother. I heard a lot of things like that. Like, the bottom line was not blood related. That was what I had in my head, which turned out to be the truth. But yeah, there was definitely something where James did feed into it, probably for some publicity, probably for shock value. I don't know, but that was something that definitely happened. This is only somewhat related, but it's just something I've noticed in my community, and I kind of just need to bring it up and talk about it a bit. Is I've seen a lot of people talk about James's Twitter, for example, about how sexual James is and the amount of porn and shit. And it's like, one thing first is let someone live. This is their life. They can do whatever they want with it. Secondly, there's nothing wrong with James being a hypersexual person. And this is just to backtrack that, I don't even think James is that much of a hypersexual person at all. I think James just shares what James enjoys very much online. And, that results into a lot of porn on his Twitter feed. I mean, if we were all as open about it as James was, our Twitter feeds would look the exact same. There's not any problem with it. It's actually something I really admire. And if it's something that you do not enjoy, you don't have to follow. You don't have to follow every queen online. If you don't want to see an ass getting rammed, don't do it. Like, I don't, and that's not because I'm some sort of prude or anything. I mean, I'm fine with it. In fact, I could look through James' Twitter right now and see all the retweets and go, I've probably seen 80% of this shit. It's not new to me. Let's just be real here. But I don't follow because my Twitter's filled with Pokemon and cute puppy videos, so I don't need to deal with a dick getting sucked in between them. Not something I need to see 24/7, but it's James's life and James's life to have. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Okay, got that out of the way. Let's go back into the episode. And Disasterina being straight, which is actually, I don't think that term is ever used by Disasterina herself. I think it's used by other people. So I don't really know if we can consider Disasterina straight, but Disasterina is married to a woman. So that is the easiest way to put it. And I was really surprised to find that Disasterina had any worry at all that was the case when it came to being in Dragula, because, she said she didn't fit in with this group of queens, but reality is Disasterina doesn't really fit in anywhere. She definitely doesn't fit in with the straight world, so it's kind of weird to me that she didn't think she would fit in with like a group of outcast queers that didn't really relate to a majority of people. But of course they love her and accept her, and like Erica said, it was such a non-issue. There was really no problems at all. And then we get into the most heated argument of the night, which I would not have thought before was going to be a rehearsal for the rock band challenge. Sure, that was a team challenge and a lot rode on everyone else, but I don't think how heated this argument got was worth it. And it was really just a lot of Kendra kind of blaming other people and not seeing the thoughts on herself. Because there was a lot to blame on Kendra that was, like, warranted. But, like, she was blaming other people, but she was not really seeing the reasonings, like, why she did badly. Because she did badly, and she deserved to go home. There's not really an argument for that. That's just what happened, and that was true. But it did give two of my favorite lines of the entire series. One, put some titties on, bitch. Favorite, love it. I will be using that in the future. Secondly was, it was styrofoam, bitch. I love that each of them end in bitch. And there's a queen named Bitch, and it had nothing to do with bitch pudding. But it was styrofoam, bitch. That one's harder to work into my everyday life, but I will find a way. It will work. If I get the opportunity, I would use it. I love it. I thought it was amazing. Okay, and then we get into Monique's shit, where the entire racism thing came about. I approved of everything she said. She came off pretty well. She said that, it was an apology and it doesn't matter that it was, however long ago. It happened. And she's trying to improve and trying to work through it. And she and Soju, who was the queen that the entire thing went down with, they made amends, apparently, and that's fine. But I do want to say this about forgiveness, and especially when you're in a public eye, is that forgiveness does not come from a single person alone. Forgiveness comes from every individual. Everyone in their own way needs to make that forgiveness. And I can say for a fact that I forgive Monique, and I enjoy Monique, and I'll continue to enjoy Monique in the future. But I do want to say that forgiveness comes in many different forms. And it's not just going back to the way things were prior to knowing about the mistakes that someone has made before. A genius of our time once said, all there is left to do is forgive and forget. So I want to forgive you, and I want to forget you. Such beautiful words. And that's just the thing. That is what forgiveness can be for many people, is, leaving them behind. And that's not something that you should not expect when you make a mistake. Yes, that is the best case scenario, is going back to the way things were prior, but that's just not how it works. And it comes in many other different forms, different stages of emotions. So then after that, the queens choose who they believe or who they would want to win the competition. I think the more queens chose bitch than the other two. This does lead to the question that I've been getting a lot lately, which is who I think is going to win the competition. This isn't who I think is going to win the competition. This is more who I want to win. I don't really have predictions or like these expectations of stuff. I kind of just have my wants, which is, I feel, is a negative thing because it kind of leads me not driven for a lot of stuff because I know my wants aren't my expectations, because I tend to keep my expectations pretty low, but such a detriment in my life. But who I want to win, who I really, really want to win, is Victoria. I think Victoria is an amazing queen. I think she served amazing looks. And funnily enough, I think in this competition, I probably have said more negative things about Victoria than I have Bitch and James combined. But I think Victoria really is capable of being the next drag super monster. I think she's capable of it. I love her looks. Her big problem and what is the driving force, and I think all the queens deserve the win. James, Bitch, and Victoria, I do think they all deserve it, and I do think it's come down to the very final challenge. Despite what has happened, it's very close in the competition right now, and I think it is going to be, a very neck and neck competition. But if Victoria is able to do a good performance, because that has been her weakest link throughout the entirety of the competition, is her performances, and her personality is a little bit dry. I think she can come through. She can realize it. She even said it herself. Those are her problems, and she's ready to overcome them. And I'm ready too. I can definitely see it, working in her favor. And that's who I want to win. And I know, I think the majority of people I've seen online, or at least that I see here, want Bitch to win. Understandable. I see it too. I also see anyone thinking James is going to win. James has done the best so far in the competition, I'm pretty sure. So, that's possible. They all have done amazing. I could see any one of them win. So far, this competition has been amazing. It's really showcased each of these queens pretty well. The growth of Bitch has been amazing. Imagining her at the very beginning of this competition versus where she is now, and just how the fan base has just switched when it came to her, because they were really sleeping on her at the beginning, and then they came around pretty fucking soon afterwards. So I'm really happy with the response to Bitch has been, because she is just an amazing queen, as is James, as is Victoria, as is the entire cast. The entire cast has been amazing. Yep, but I'm excited for next week's episode. I'm ready to see who's gonna win that crown. I'm ecstatic, I'm ready, and I'm gonna have to end it there. My name is Josh Rivers. Thank you so much for listening to the Ramblings of a Clown. You can follow me on Twitter at PixelPixelBoom. I would like to thank my patrons. The support you guys give helps me so much. You have no idea. I love you guys. I will see you guys next time. And remember to have fun. Bye, guys.